want to tell everyone, thanks a lot for being here. There's a lot of queue. I hope I will be up to you guys' expectations. What I want to tell you about today is about digital transformation and how that impacts customer care, how this is going to change the image perceived by your customers of your brand. Just before I get started, can everyone hear me? Is it working fine? Yeah, I see nodding, so I'm going to take it as a yes. So digital transformation. What is digital transformation all about? It's really a profound change over every aspect of your company, which means that it's actually a huge topic. And what I'm going to talk about is one very specific aspect of this digital transformation. When a company says, okay, we have to go through digital transformation, the first thing that you have to do, obviously, is change the vision. And when you change the vision, you have to change the strategy that comes with it. Very quickly, you're going to have to translate this strategy into different concrete changes. Here I'm thinking about changing processes, changing infrastructure, changing mindset and workforce, but also changing the way you have analytics, the way you collect data, the way you exploit that data. If we get a little more concrete, basically it means you're going to have to change the way you work with every single department within your company, whether we're talking about sales, marketing, finance, HR, product development, R&D, everything is going to change. But if you ask me, I would tell you that everything we've been talking about here is a hidden part of your company. If I compare it to an iceberg, that's actually everything that's underwater. That's great, and you have to do it, but that's not what your customers see. Even if you do all that, your customers might not perceive your brand as a digital brand. What you really have to do is to look at the tip of the iceberg, the part that your customers actually see on a daily basis. And what it is, that is customer care. That's why proper digital transformation has to start with customer care. So okay, everything I told you so far, easy to say. How do we do it? So what I wanted to highlight in this conversation we're having today is the main obstacles that you face when you go through customer care digital transformation. I'm going to highlight a few of them. Why I need to do this? Because digital transformation sounds cool and sexy, but it's incredibly difficult because you just don't know where to start. There are so many steps and you know you're going to have obstacles. But once you know these obstacles, it's much easier to tackle them. Obstacle number one, your customers' expectations have changed. You might have heard of some local tiny companies like Amazon, Uber, Airbnb. These guys may not be your competitors. They are probably different industries. But they are your competitors when it comes to customer care because they've just raised the bar. They put it so high that it becomes a new standard. That becomes what your customers expect. Just think about it. When you want to contact Uber, it is so easy. It is so fast to get an answer that even when you talk to your bank, you expect that should be the same type of relation you have. Why would you have to wait for 3 weeks to receive a paper letter in your mailbox while Uber can respond within 5 minutes on the app? So it has just changed level of expectation from your customers. And the problem is, whether these guys are your competitors or not, you're just going to have to reach the same level because that's what your customers expect. They want convenience, they want mobile, they want digital, they want you to care and listen to what they have to say. They no longer want to fit into your processes, they want you to adapt to their expectations. Before I go on to number two, I'd like to have a quick survey. Here I'm listing a few social media and messaging apps. So when I talk about messaging, I'm talking about Facebook Messenger, about WhatsApp, about iMessage, about Viber, about WeChat, about Line, and all these messaging apps that we now use to communicate with our peers. Can you just raise your hand who is using one of these apps on a daily basis? Don't be shy. All right, I see everyone raising his hand. Now let's go through official statistics that are less exciting than you guys here. 80% of adults, 91% of teenagers use this kind of messaging apps on a daily basis. Now just think about it. If over 80% of your customers love talking to their friends and family using messaging, why would you want to force them to different channels when they communicate with your brand? Put it differently, can you afford not to satisfy and use the favorite channels of 80% of your customer market share today? That leads me to the second obstacle. People's communications habits have shifted to digital. The younger the generation, the more they love messaging apps, social media, and those kinds of new cool digital channels. Phone is still here, and that's still a pretty big share of the whole pie. But why do younger generation prefer messaging and social media? Because it's simple, for one, asynchronous, for two. That means that if I have a conversation on a hotline with a company, I know I'm going to have to stick on the phone. I might pay for the conversation, I might wait forever on the line, but most importantly, I can't do anything else in the same time, because if I lose the conversation for a second, I lose the signal, I get to start all over again. With messaging, it's asynchronous. It's working very differently. I send a message, go on, do something else, take the metro, get out of the metro, and I can continue the conversation. My answer is here. That is the beauty of messaging apps, and that is why youngsters love doing that. Then comes the third obstacle. It's pretty easy to identify a customer who comes to your physical store. You know him, you see him, you have his loyalty card and so on. But can you imagine how difficult it is when you start your digital transformation to identify your customers in the cloud? When it comes to digital, how do you know that John Doe in your store is the same person as johndoe@gmail.com through email, at John Doe on Twitter, or whatever other username they might have on Facebook, Messenger, and so on? Identifying customer is incredibly difficult in the cloud if you don't have the right solution for it. But it's also incredibly important. Why is it? 72% of your customers today consider it as normal that they should be identified automatically, meaning they should not have to repeat again and again and again who they are when they talk to your brand. 89% of them say to be incredibly frustrated to have to repeat their problem over and over again. And that happens because you have not identified them, so you don't know their background, you don't know who they are, you don't have past conversation. So identifying your customers firsthand is one of the major obstacles of digital transformation when it comes to customer care. But I won't stop here. Next problem, and that's probably the biggest one of all, is teams are organized in silos. Why is that? Simply because customer care, traditional customer care, through phone and so on, that was here in the past, and it was working beautifully. Then we started finding out that, well, there is some digital out there. So I need to do a little digital also, right? It'll be available through email, web form, maybe I'll do a little live chat. I'm not too sure about how it's going to work, so I'm going to buy a new solution. I'm going to build a new team around that solution. I'm going to put a manager on top of it, give them some KPIs, objectives, some training, and you guys move along. Then I got a new channel again. Then I do everything once again. I get my new tool, I got my new team, my manager, my KPIs, objectives, my training, and you guys go ahead. And then at the end of the day, I have so many different departments separated from one another. The problem here is you have to pay for few solutions. You have to pay for different training. Once there is a peak of traffic on one of this channel, you can't move your people from one channel to the other because they don't know how to use it. Difficult to manage, but the worst part of it is it's incredibly frustrating for your customers. 58% of your customers today are saying they're frustrated by inconsistent customer experience across channels. Why is that? Different teams, different trainings, different KPI. If I contact you through email or through Facebook, I might get a different answer because the people on the other hand are not actually working together. They are organized in silos. Digital transformation of customer care has to go through removing all these silos. Easier to say than to do, but we're going to get into this in a second. That is the beauty of digital transformation. That's what I love the most. In digital, everything is data. When you're on the phone, the agent is just going to make a quick summary, taking a few notes of what happened during the conversation. Because it's normal. Conversation is vocal, it's voice. But when it comes to data, when it comes to digital conversations through messaging and so on, everything is data. Meaning you can actually extract the information, build up your customer knowledge, and feed your other department with that knowledge to improve your overall results. But that's easier to say than to do. Why? Because traditionally, conversations are not data. So we're going to have to find out how do we actually maximize the usage of that information. And then there are all the tools. In average, a contact center uses between 8 and 12 different tools. Here I'm talking about things like your voice solution, your digital interactions, but also your CRM, maybe your chatbot, your website, voice of the customer, your BI, your BPM, your different reporting tools. You need that. you're never going to be able to replace everything with one solution. It's not realistic. So you need all these different bricks. The problem is, if your bricks are disconnected one from the other, then the information cannot circulate properly. If the data does not flow, it means you're going to end up with obsolete data, redundant data, or even worse, with a pure lack of data. And this holy grail that everyone is talking about, the 360 view of the customer, does not exist as long as these different bricks are not connected to each other. And I'm going to end with probably the largest obstacle of all. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. 42% of your customer service representatives are basically claiming are not able to help your customers because of those disconnected tools that does not allow them to have the full information they need to satisfy your customers. And the biggest of all is we all know how painful it is to deploy new IT projects. That's probably what's stopping most companies from going through customer care digitalization, because they understand that once you get your finger into the gears, your entire body goes through it, and that's probably going to take a long time. So you have to find quick wins and easy solutions to implement in a very short time so that you can go on with bigger projects afterwards. So where does Dimelo, the company I represent, fit into this? I'm going to try to make it simple. Dimelo is a company that allows enterprises to connect with their customers through multiple digital channels. If I had to explain it in a very simple way, I would say that Dimelo is the link between your customers and your brand in the digital world. Today we are present in 65 countries around the world. We recognize 70 different languages in different countries, and we work with over 100 enterprises all over the world. We work with large companies in multiple verticals. Here in Belgium, we work with those nice guys from the third row who are Proximus. Thank you for coming. But we work with multiple telcos because they have large volume and large pain points when it comes to digital customer care. We work with insurances that need to reconnect with their customers. We work with banks that have incredible pain points when it comes to security and communication, but we also work with transport, utilities, we work with retailers, and so on. So what is an Omni digital platform? I've been using the word quite a few times. So I want to explain what a digital platform, Omni digital platform, actually does. An Omni digital platform is a platform that's going to allow you to connect all your digital channels so that you communicate with your customers. Here I'm talking about things like messaging apps, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, iMessage, Viber, WeChat, and so on. I'm talking about all your social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google+, you know them. But also about in-app messaging. You know, this branded app that your company has, your customers should be able to communicate with you through that app as well. Same thing for the live chat you have on your website, the web form you have on your contact page, your direct email, your communities, your forum. All those digital channels, when you have an Omni digital platform, you plug them all on one single interface. Everything comes through that single interface, and you can treat messages one by one, all in the same way. Remember the 58% of frustrated customers I talked about before because of inconsistent customer experience? That's what we're solving here. How does that work? You become completely channel agnostic. Does not matter which channel your customer is using. The message comes through, and we allocate the message automatically with artificial intelligence to the right agent with the right competency, the right language skill that is currently available for taking it. What that means is you no longer have a huge backlog of messages on your live chat while your Twitter team is doing nothing because there's nothing happening on Twitter. You can actually allocate your resources much more easily, and instead of having those technological silos I talked about earlier, now you have teams based on expertise. You have your team that knows everything about billing, and they receive automatically every billing question. You have all your team about technological issue, helping with technological problems automatically. And because this is a single platform, you have the same KPIs, the same objectives, the same data, the same way of monitoring your team across the board. So if I had to summarize the advantages of this kind of platform, I would say there are three things. The first is Everything is data, and that data is analyzed the same way across all platforms. Now you can really compare what's happening on your email and your messaging and your live chat because you have the same way to compare that data. Everything is standardized. That means better reporting, that means better monitoring, that means everything works much better when you want to supervise your team. Second thing is about adding new channels. I told you that earlier. You have to add new channels. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, maybe next year, a new popular messaging app will come across and you'll have to be there because your customers will need you to be there. If you have to get a new tool every single time, build a team, put the KPI, put the manager, organize everything, it's painful. It's taking a long time and a lot of money. If you can just plug a new channel every time it becomes popular, it's just so much easier for you to manage everything. So the ease to add new channel means you remain very close to your customers and you reduce drastically the amount of training you need because it's always the same platforms your agents have been using all along. Number 3 is about the fact that now your teams are organized by expertise, no longer by technological silos. It's very important because now your resources are allocated automatically. We know that you have more messages on Twitter, you have more people on Twitter, so easy to switch resources and allocate these messages because everything is based on artificial intelligence and purely automatic. At the end of the day, that means lower response time for your customers because you have the right resources at the right place, but it also means internally that you have less transfer. If you allocate the right message to the right agent, you no longer need to transfer it from one agent to the other. Everything I've been telling you about here, I could summarize it with 2 points. Externally, it's increase of customer satisfaction. You're faster, you're better, less transfer, better first response, first resolution contact. Customers are happier. Higher loyalty, better retention rate, lower churn rate, higher revenue. On the other side, internally, that means increase of productivity. Less training, less time explaining everything, easier to manage resources, lower costs, lower expenses. That means these 2 things together, you have a digital image and you just increase your profit. And remember I told you in digital everything is data. Everything that comes through the pipes of your Omni digital platform is just enriched with that extra data you've been accumulating. What that means is that it's actually going to feed all the other departments I was telling you about in the first slide. Because your marketing is going to enjoy knowing customers better and having dedicated campaign. Your sales is going to know their customer better. Your product development team is going to understand different pain points in a different way. I will end with this. I have a few key takeaways, making sure you leave this room and you'll be satisfied with what you've heard today, trying. First thing, successful digital transformation starts with customer care. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's what your customers see. That's what you have to sell first if you want to digitalize the image perceived by your customer. Takeaway number 2, your customers' expectations have changed. Many companies have raised the bar, and the only way for you to satisfy them is to reach that level of expectation. Bring them the channels they need, bring them the channels they favor, bring them the convenience, mobility that they are looking for. Key takeaway number 3, a consistent customer experience across channel is key. Because your customers will never understand why they get a different answer whether they are talking to you on Facebook, on email, or on live chat. You have to provide the same level of customer experience across all channels. That is their basic expectation. Key takeaway number 4, you have to connect your various tools. Does not matter what you're using, everyone is using multiple tools, you have no choice, you have CRM, BI, BPM, and so on. You have to connect them. You have to centralize the data and make it flow across the tools so that you have this 360-degree customer view everyone is talking about. And last but not least, you have to think Omni Digital when it comes to customer care, because it's going to help you tremendously externally. It's going to make the life of your customers much easier. You're going to completely change the image you have perceived, but also internally. Higher productivity, easier to manage resources. Omni Digital is where it starts when it comes to digital transformation of your customer care department. I've just been informed that I was out of time, so perfect timing. Thank you very much for everyone for being here. We're on booth 20 for those interested and have questions. Thank you very much.